Not the big shove. Okay? No, I shove is not a big shove thing like that. Okay, guys. You'll get shoved out here. If you do it again, you feel complicated.
Get him
I don't remember the disco. The disco.
No. You know, you haven't studied history very well if you're going to compare Sharon to Hitler.
Tell you what, this happens in history. I know they're killing us and kids were saying it's it's fucking wrong.
What about sending kids to blow up school buses?
Their kids are being blown up on school buses.
I'm us.
You Iraq terrorist. That's standing caboose.
No more Holocaust against Jewish people. Okay, I have to differ with the guy with the "We are all Palestinians" shirt. We are not all Palestinians.
That's what you're Nazi.
You're the genocidal maniac.
People that are calling us Nazis. And you are another. They would have got you first. You would have been the first.
Thousands of anti-war protesters descended on downtown San Francisco today to call for an end to the conflict that has left hundreds of Americans and thousands of Iraqi civilians dead. But unlike many such demonstrations in the past, today's march was met with a counter-demonstration. Channel 2's Rob Roth has our report.
Thousands of people marched down Market Street this afternoon from United Nations Plaza to Justin Herman Plaza to voice their opposition to the war in Iraq. Among those marching were Vietnam veterans who carried posters with the pictures of those who have died in the Persian Gulf.
We don't have discourse in this country. We don't discuss what's going on, and that's killing us. That's why these people are on here. That's why we have a wall. That's why we have all these wars, and we need to talk.
Protesters say even though the United States intends to hand over control to the Iraqis at the end of this month, that won't mean the end of U.S. military involvement. They worry more American soldiers and Iraqi civilians will die.
We're trying to send a message and raise people's conscience to realize that this war is it's about killing.
President Bush says the war in Iraq is part of the war on terrorism and an effort to get rid of a brutal dictator. Some protesters say the president could put the money he's spending on the war to better use in this country, such as programs to help stop the violence in inner cities.
We're being terrorized right here, and he's not taking care of home.
If we don't stop the war, then all of the children around the world are not going to have a future.
March organizers say there are parallels between the anti-war movement of the 60s and today's protests.
We have to be ready for a long, protracted struggle, because if we remember Vietnam, it took 8 years from the time of the first big demonstrations against the war and to end it.
Many of the marches also carried a pro-Palestinian message, calling for an end to what they say is Israel's occupation of Palestine. But about 500 people staged a counter-protest in support of Israel's right to exist. The pro-Israel and the pro-Palestine supporters faced off at Justin Herman Plaza this afternoon, shouting at each other. With police standing in the middle to keep the peace. And while most of the day was peaceful, police did make 5 arrests for refusing to get off the street and challenging to fight and resisting arrest. For police, today's protests were merely a warm-up. There's a massive anti-biotechnology demonstration planned for Tuesday outside the Moscone Center, and officers say they'll be out there in force. In San Francisco, Rob Roth.
San Francisco had a simple message today. Our troops should be brought home now.
Lies! How many died?
Several thousand people rallied along Market Street, backing up traffic. They were watched closely by police in riot gear. There was a skirmish at one point between pro-Israel and pro-Palestinian demonstrators. A total of 5 people were arrested today for obstructing traffic and for fighting.
In Iraq. All is all they are on the demonstration, the clashes with counter-protesters, and the arrests.
A mass of anti-war protesters, many carrying stinging signs, flowed down San Francisco's Market Street, hoping to further erode support for the war in Iraq.
We're wrong right now. It's not about freedom and liberty in this country. It's about taking over someone else's country that really don't want us there.
We bring our boys home and get the hell out of where we're at now. We don't belong there.
There's an anti-war movement in this town!
Numerous groups pushing their own agendas joined the action, sponsored by members of International Answer. There were some tense moments when protesters came face to face with counter-protesters.
4 more years! 4 more years!
A much smaller but no less passionate group of U.S.-Israeli supporters, many of them members of the newly formed San Francisco Voice for Israel, challenged the anti-war sentiment.
You can be for peace without being against Israel, and they tie the two together. I'm out here to show my support for Israel, President Bush, and our troops overseas right now.
A splinter group broke from the main demonstration, but a huge police presence kept very tight control over the crowds. According to police, a total of 5 arrests were made, 2 for traffic violations, 3 for unknown violations at this point. There were no reports of injuries and no reports of property damage. Overall, a very peaceful action. In San Francisco, Wallace Alvear, CBS 5.